Stay down. Don't move. Please, I didn't do anything. Tell me where it is. I don't know!
The gunshot came first, then the silence. Inside the marble hallway of the most feared man in Busan, a wounded attacker lay crumpled against the wall. Blood spread slowly across the pale floor. 3 more of Han Ji-suk's men stood with weapons raised, waiting for the word. The single nod that had ended lives before, the quiet permission that needed no explanation. Ji-suk stood over the man, gun in hand, jaw set like stone. His eyes were cold, empty, the kind of empty that doesn't come from cruelty. It comes from having felt everything and decided feeling was too expensive. He was about to give the nod. Then a small voice cut through the silence like a knife. You promised me 3 wishes. Every head turned. Maya Vale stood in the hallway doorway, 9 years old, still in her school uniform, her braids slightly loose from a long day. She looked at the men with guns the way another child might look at strangers at a grocery store, curious, unafraid, assessing. Then she walked forward, slowly, deliberately, until she was standing directly between Ji-suk and the bleeding man on the floor. She looked up at Ji-suk. You haven't finished them yet, she said simply. You can't do this until you do. No one moved. Not the gunman. Not the attacker on the floor. Not the Iron Chairman himself. Han Ji-suk, who had broken men twice Maya's father's size without changing his expression. He stared at the child. She stared back. And slowly, impossibly, Han Ji-suk lowered the gun. 3 weeks earlier. If you're watching this from somewhere beautiful, drop your city in the comments right now. And if this story already has you, hit that like button. It helps us keep creating. Now, let's go back to where this all began. The mansion on the cliff outside Busan had never been a home. Anyone who had ever entered it knew that instantly, even before the guards at the gate, even before the cameras tracking every angle of the perimeter. It was the windows, bulletproof, tinted so dark they looked like closed eyes, like the mansion itself was refusing to look outward, refusing to let anything in. Inside, the staff moved like people in a library near closing time. Quietly, carefully, with the particular kind of silence that comes not from peace, but from fear. 16 household employees. Not one of them had eaten dinner with their employer in the 3 years since Madame Yu Hei-rin had died. Han Ji-suk had not changed the photographs after she passed. They still hung on the walls. Hei-rin laughing in the botanical garden. Hei-rin in a red coat at the harbor. Hei-rin and Ji-suk on what must have been their wedding day. Both of them younger, both of them somehow lit from inside by something that had since gone dark. The staff had learned not to look at the photographs when the chairman was in the room. Ji-suk ran his operations from a study on the upper floor, a shipping empire above ground, a smuggling network below it, docks, routes, contacts that stretched from Busan to Incheon to ports his advisors didn't ask about. He had built it all methodically, without sentiment, without excess. The underworld called him the Iron Chairman. Not because he was loud, but because he was immovable, absolute, the kind of dangerous that didn't need to announce itself. He ate alone. He slept barely. And every morning, before his first meeting, he stood in front of his wife's photograph in the hallway and said nothing at all. No one knew what he said on the inside. No one was paid enough to guess. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Serena Vale arrived on a Tuesday. She came with 2 suitcases, a folded letter of employment, and her daughter Maya, who walked into the mansion the way children walk into museums, taking everything in, touching nothing, cataloging everything silently behind her eyes. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Cheon, met them at the service entrance. She was efficient, formal, and kind in the way that people are kind when they are also deeply tired. She showed Serena the kitchen, the supply rooms, the schedule. She spoke in measured, careful Korean, and Serena followed with the help of the translation app on her phone and 2 years of evening language study she had completed back in London before applying for this posting. The chairman, Mrs. Cheon, said finally, pausing in front of a closed hallway, does not wish to be disturbed. If he speaks to you, you respond. You do not initiate conversation. You do not ask personal questions. You do not enter rooms he hasn't opened to staff. Serena finished quietly. I read the terms. Mrs. Cheon looked at her for a moment, then at Maya, who was studying a vase near the corridor entrance with the focused attention of a museum curator. Your daughter, Mrs. Cheon said carefully, should follow the same guidelines. Maya turned from the vase. I will, she said politely. Then she tilted her head. This house is very quiet. Does it always feel like this? Mrs. Cheon opened her mouth, closed it, then said, yes. Maya considered this the way another 9-year-old might consider a puzzle she intended to solve. Serena put a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Come on, let's get settled. That afternoon, Ji-suk walked through the east hallway on his way to a call with a port contact in Incheon. He didn't look up when he passed the new housekeeper. Serena had the instinct to bow her head and step aside, which she did, efficiently and without performance. Ji-suk said nothing, but 3 steps past her, he paused, just for a breath, then continued walking. He couldn't have explained why he paused. Later, he wouldn't try. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It was Maya who noticed things first. That the roses in the West Garden had been left unpruned for months, even though there were staff dedicated to the garden. That the dining table was always set for 1, though it sat 12. That the photograph in the hallway, the one with Hae-rin in the red coat, had a small water stain on the lower left corner, as if it had been touched repeatedly by a wet hand, or perhaps a hand wiping tears. She noticed these things and stored them the way she stored everything, quietly, without judgment, with the patience of someone who understood that understanding took time. She was not afraid of Ji-suk. This was itself unusual. Even adults who outranked her in every measurable way were careful around the chairman, their postures slightly adjusted, their voices slightly dimmed whenever he entered a space. But Maya watched him the way she watched the unpruned roses, as something in a condition it had not chosen, waiting for something it could not name. One evening, she sat on the staircase with a book and watched Ji-suk walk to the kitchen. He returned with water. He didn't notice her. She noticed that he looked at Hae-rin's photograph as he passed it, just for a moment, and the look on his face was not cold. It was grieving. She filed this away too. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The locket fell on a Thursday afternoon. Ji-suk was walking back from the study toward the east wing when something slipped from the inner pocket of his jacket. A small silver oval on a chain, barely the size of a child's palm. It hit the marble floor with a soft, clear sound and spun once before settling. He didn't notice. Maya did. She had been passing the hallway with a stack of folded linens she was helping her mother carry upstairs. She watched Ji-suk continue walking, the locket glinting on the floor behind him. She set down her half of the linens, picked up the locket, and ran. Sir. Ji-suk turned. No one ran toward him. No one called to him that way. Urgent, without calculation, without the practiced deference that preceded every interaction with the chairman. He turned instinctively, one hand already moving. Maya held out the locket. He looked at it, then at her, then at it again. He took it slowly, opened it. Inside was a photograph, a man and a woman, younger, lit from behind by sunlight, laughing at something outside the frame. Ji-suk closed the locket. He had expected many things from people in his world. He had not expected this. You could have kept it, he said. He didn't mean it as an accusation. He was simply noting the fact, the way he noted facts about everything. It's not mine, Maya said. Something shifted in Ji-suk's expression. The smallest thing, almost invisible. "What do you want?" he said. Because in his experience, return things came with prices. Gestures came with requests. Kindness was a negotiation. Maya thought about this seriously. "I don't want anything right now," she said. But she hesitated. "If you were going to give me something, you could give me 3 wishes." Like in a story, Ji-suk looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, against every instinct he possessed, "Fine, 3 wishes," and walked away. Maya watched him go, small hands clasped in front of her, looking quietly satisfied with the outcome. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The first wish came 4 days later. It was dinner. Mrs. Cheon had set the dining table for one as always. But that evening Serena was finishing a late cleaning pass through the east corridor, and Maya was waiting for her near the kitchen. Ji-suk had descended from his study and was taking his place at the head of the 12-seat table, a habit as solitary and ritualistic as everything else in his life. Maya appeared in the doorway. "We could eat together," she said. Ji-suk looked at her. "That isn't appropriate." "Why not?" "Because your mother works here. She also makes food," Maya said. "And food is better when other people eat it too. My mom says that. She read it somewhere scientific." Ji-suk said nothing. Serena appeared behind her daughter, one hand braced on the doorframe as if she might need to physically retrieve the child. "Maya." "It's fine," Ji-suk said. Both of them looked at him. "Eat," he said, "if you want." It was the most unusual dinner the mansion had witnessed in 3 years. Serena brought the meal she had prepared, doenjang jjigae, rice, braised mackerel, and served it at the far end of the table at a respectful distance, with Maya sitting next to her. Ji-suk ate at the head of the table. No one spoke for several minutes. Then Maya said, "I've been thinking about my first wish." Serena set down her spoon. Ji-suk's hand stopped moving. "I wish," Maya said carefully, with the deliberateness of someone who had been rehearsing, "that you would marry my mom." The silence that followed was the most complete silence the mansion had achieved in years. Ji-suk placed his chopsticks on the table. He looked at Maya with an expression that no one in his organization had ever survived producing, a look of absolute, undivided attention, the kind that preceded consequences. Maya did not flinch. "No," Ji-suk said. "That's not a fair answer," she replied. "You made a promise." "I said 3 wishes. I did not agree to those wishes." "You didn't set conditions." Maya tilted her head. "If you weren't going to allow any wish, you should have said that." Serena pressed her hand over her mouth. She was not sure if she was suppressing a gasp or something else entirely. Ji-suk stared at the child, 9 years old, entirely unafraid, negotiating with him at his own table, in his own house, with the calm logic of someone who had thought this through several nights in advance. "Your mother," he said slowly, "is an employee. She's also a widow," Maya said. "And so are you, kind of. A widower. And this house is too quiet and too dark, and nobody smiles here." She looked around the dining room. "My mom smiles all the time. She makes places better. I thought you should know that." Serena looked at her daughter, then at Ji-suk, then at the table. "I'll think about it," Ji-suk said. It was the first time in anyone's memory that the Iron Chairman had said those 4 words. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. He did not stop thinking about it. This was the problem. In the days that followed the dinner, Ji-suk found himself noticing Serena in the particular way he noticed things that were relevant to a situation he was trying to analyze. The way she moved through the house, not with the anxious efficiency of the other staff, but with a kind of composed attention, as if she had decided to be present and meant it. She spoke to the other household employees like equals. She sang very quietly to herself when she thought no one was near. When he passed her in the hallway and she stepped aside, she didn't look down. She looked at him evenly, with the particular courtesy of someone who was choosing deference rather than compelled by fear. It was, Ji-suk found himself thinking, deeply inconvenient. One evening he came down from the study earlier than usual and found a plate on the kitchen counter with a small note beneath it. Late dinner. Thought you might not have eaten. It was from no one in particular, but the handwriting wasn't Mrs. Cheon's. He ate it at the counter, standing up, in the dark. It was the best meal he'd had in months. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Outside the walls of the mansion, in a restaurant that occupied the 23rd floor of a building in downtown Busan, a man named Kang Dae-min was having a very interesting conversation with his intelligence contact. Dae-min was 45, well-dressed, with the pleasant face of someone who had learned that pleasantness was disarming. He ran 2 competing networks in Busan, one legitimate, one decidedly not, and had spent 3 years waiting for the Iron Chairman to show a weakness he could use. "Tell me again," he said, refilling the man's glass. "A woman and a child," the contact said. "The woman is a new housekeeper. The child goes with her. They eat dinner with him." Dae-min was quiet for a moment. He picked up his glass. He smiled. "Even iron rusts," he said softly. He began making arrangements. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It was a Saturday when Ji-suk appeared at the kitchen doorway and said, without preamble, "Get dressed. We're going out." Serena turned from the counter. "I'm sorry. You and your daughter. Dress for a garden." He left before she could respond. 40 minutes later, they were in the back of a black car, moving through Busan's streets toward the outskirts of the city. Maya had her face pressed against the window, watching the buildings give way to hills, the hills to greenery. Ji-suk sat across from them, looking at his phone, saying nothing. "Where are we going?" Maya asked. "A garden," Ji-suk said, without looking up. "What kind?" "Botanical." Maya considered this. "Do you like flowers?" A pause. "She did," Ji-suk said. Nobody asked who she was. The photograph in the hallway had answered that already. The Hauni Botanical Garden was quiet on a Saturday morning. Cherry blossoms had begun to open along the path, pale pink against a gray-white sky, petals drifting down like something that had decided to let go. Ji-suk walked, ahead by habit, and Maya took her mother's hand, and for a few minutes no one said anything. Then Ji-suk stopped. He was looking at a specific bench at the end of the path. An ordinary bench, wooden, slightly weathered. "She used to sit there," he said. He hadn't meant to say it. It came out the way things come out when your guard is occupied with everything else and the truth slips through the gap. Serena didn't respond right away. She stood beside him and looked at the bench. "The last time I was here," Ji-suk said quietly, "was with her." "How long ago?" Serena asked. 3 years. She nodded slowly. "Grief isn't something you defeat," she said. "It's something you carry. You just get stronger, and it gets lighter." Ji-suk looked at her, not as an employee, not as a variable in his household, as a person who had said something true, without strategy, without performance. "How would you know?" he said. It wasn't cruel. It was an honest question. "My husband died 4 years ago," she said simply. Ji-suk was quiet for a long time. Maya had wandered down the path and was crouched over a cluster of small white flowers, examining them with the same focused interest she applied to everything. "She would have liked your daughter," Ji-suk said. Serena smiled. "Maya likes everyone," she said. "And most things. She's still deciding about you." Ji-suk glanced at her. Something moved across his face, brief, unfamiliar. It might have been the beginning of a smile. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The second wish came that night, back at the mansion. Maya found Ji-suk in the study hallway just before bedtime, and she stood in front of him with the composure of someone delivering a formal proposal. "I've decided on my second wish," she said. Ji-suk waited. "I wish you would visit the place that makes you the saddest." He didn't answer right away. He looked at the child, at her steady eyes, her quiet certainty. He knew exactly what place she meant. How did you? You never go, Maya said simply. You have her pictures everywhere, but you never go. That's not the same as remembering. That's hiding. Ji-suk felt something tighten in his chest that he hadn't felt move in years. That's too much for a wish, he said. It's exactly enough, Maya replied. She said goodnight and went to bed. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. He went the next morning, alone. The cemetery was on a hillside outside the city, old stone paths between newer markers. Yu Hei-rin's grave was simple. Her family had chosen the stone, the inscription. Ji-suk had not had input. He had not been functional enough to give it. He stood in front of the stone for a long time. Then Serena appeared beside him. He hadn't told her where he was going. But Maya had, apparently, told her mother enough. Serena said nothing. She simply stood next to him, not touching, not prompting, just present in the particular way that is much harder than speaking. After a long time, something in Ji-suk broke. Not loudly, not with drama. It was quiet. A long, unsteady breath, and then the grief that had been living in his chest for 3 years finally found its way out. Not in tears, but in a kind of collapse, his whole body leaning forward as if the weight of it had finally reached a tipping point. Serena put one hand on his shoulder. He didn't move away. Then Maya, who had come from the car without either of them noticing, crouched in front of the grave and placed a small bundle of white flowers she had brought in her backpack, the same flowers from the botanical garden path. It's okay if he smiles again, she said quietly, to the stone. I think you'd want that. Ji-suk straightened slowly. He looked at the child, at the flowers, at the inscription on the stone. Then he looked at the sky for a long time, and when he looked back, something in his eyes was different. Not healed, not fixed, but open, in the way that something long sealed finally opens, with care, with difficulty, with the particular ache of things that have been closed too long. Now this is the moment, the crossroads where everything is about to change. Imagine being in a position like this, where loving someone means risking everything, where protecting someone might cost you everything you've built. If you were Ji-suk right now, would you choose the empire or the people inside it? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this story is holding you, hit that like button. You're helping us keep telling stories like this one. Damon had chosen his moment carefully. The attack came on a Thursday night. A breach through the east perimeter. 6 men who knew the guard rotation well enough to suggest inside intelligence, moving fast and quiet through the property toward the main building. Ji-suk's security detail responded within 30 seconds. But 30 seconds was enough. Inside the mansion, the alarm system activated. Serena grabbed Maya's hand and moved fast toward the interior corridor, away from windows, away from entrances. Everything the emergency protocol, Mrs. Cheon, had made every staff member memorize, covering exactly what to do. They reached the marble hallway just as the fighting pushed inside. Gunfire. The crack of it bouncing off the high ceilings, the walls, the floors. A wounded attacker slid along the far wall and went down, and then Ji-suk was there, moving through his own house like something that had been waiting to remind itself what it was. He was precise and he was devastating, and the men Damon had sent had underestimated the severity of the error they'd made. But in the chaos, Maya pulled her hand free. She wasn't running away. She was running toward Ji-suk, because she had seen something in the hallway that Serena hadn't. A second attacker moving up behind him in the shadows. And Maya had made a decision without thinking, because the person who made the 3-wish promise was not allowed to die before the 3rd wish. Behind you. Ji-suk turned. What happened next was fast and complete and final in the way that Ji-suk's decisions always were. When the dust settled, his team had contained the breach. Damon's men were either restrained or no longer a problem. and Ji-suk stood in the marble hallway looking at Maya, who stood very still beside the man he'd been about to shoot when she'd walked between them and said the thing that stopped the Iron Chairman cold. "You promised me 3 wishes. You haven't finished them yet." He looked at her for a long time. Then he looked at Serena, who had Maya by the shoulders now, breathing hard, checking her over with hands that shook only slightly because she was controlling them very deliberately. Ji-suk felt something he had not felt since the day Hae-rin died. Fear, not of the men, not of Daemin. Fear of the specific kind that only comes when you suddenly understand exactly what you have to lose, and how thin the margin was between having it and not. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. He called a meeting the next morning. His advisors arrived expecting an escalation meeting, retaliations to plan, routes to secure, Daemin's organization to dismantle piece by piece. They had their reports ready, their contacts identified, their recommendations organized. Ji-suk sat at the head of the table and said, "We're reducing operations." The room went silent. The Incheon route closes at the end of the month. The northern contacts, those relationships end. The import arrangements through the Gimhe office. Chairman, his senior advisor, a man named Wu, leaned forward carefully. "With respect, after last night." Because of last night, Ji-suk said. He did not raise his voice. He never raised his voice. That was what made him effective and what made him frightening. He said things once, evenly, and they became fact. "There are children in this house," he said. "There is a woman in this house who came here to work, not to be a target." He looked at his hands on the table for a moment. "I built this because I had nothing else. I don't have nothing else anymore." The advisors exchanged glances. Ji-suk stood. Meeting over. 3 days later, the workers came to replace the windows. Dark-tinted glass out. Clear glass in. The mansion on the cliff outside Busan had its first unfiltered morning light in years, falling across the marble floors, the photographs on the walls, the table that had always been set for one. Mrs. Cheon stood in the hallway watching the sunlight move across the floors and pressed her lips together very tightly for a moment. She set the dining table for 3. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It was a Saturday again when Ji-suk found them in the botanical garden. Cherry blossoms, fallen more heavily now, covered the path in the kind of soft pink accumulation that made the whole world feel like it was exhaling. Maya ran ahead along the path, following something, a bee, or a bird, or simply the direction of forward, because she was 9 and the world was endlessly interesting. Serena walked beside Ji-suk in a comfortable quiet, the kind that had developed over weeks, the kind that needed no management or performance, the kind that simply was. Ji-suk stopped at the bench. He looked at it for a moment. Then he sat down. He had not sat on this bench since Hae-rin had been alive. After a long time, he said, "I have a question." Serena sat beside him. "All right." He reached into his jacket pocket. He had thought about this more carefully than he had thought about almost anything in recent memory, which was saying something. He turned to face her. She looked at him, a woman who had crossed an ocean for a chance at stability, who had raised a daughter entirely alone, who had walked into the hardest house in Busan and not been intimidated by it, who had stood beside him at a gravestone and not said a single unnecessary word. He went down on one knee in front of her. Serena's breath caught. "I'm not an easy person," Ji-suk said. "I know what I am. I know what I've been." He paused. "But I am trying, genuinely, actively, daily, to become something else. And I think," he stopped again, chose words carefully, "I think it would be easier to become something else if I had a reason that was worth the effort." Serena looked at him. Her eyes were bright. "Are you asking me?" she said. "I'm asking you," he confirmed. He held her gaze without flinching. "Will you marry me?" She was quiet for exactly long enough that Ji-suk's jaw tightened very slightly. Then, yes, she said. From the path ahead of them, Maya appeared at a run. She had not been following a bee or a bird, as it turned out, but had been counting to 30 paces ahead and watching from a distance, because she was 9 years old and had engineered this particular moment down to the bench and the timing and the number of blossoms currently falling around them. She skidded to a stop in front of them, slightly out of breath, grinning. "Your third wish," Ji-suk said, looking at her. Maya straightened. She had been waiting to say this for quite some time. "I wish," she said formally, "that my mom is always happy." Ji-suk looked at the child who had walked between him and a gun, who had returned a locket without asking for anything, who had wished impossible things into being through sheer stubborn faith in the possibility that people could change. "Then," he said, quietly enough that it was almost only for Maya, "I will spend the rest of my life making sure she is." A wind moved through the garden. Cherry blossoms came loose from the branches above them. Dozens, then hundreds, pale and soft and weightless, drifting down around the bench, around the three of them, around the man who had once closed every window and now stood in open air. The fortress had become a home. The iron had finally, impossibly, learned to bloom. If this story moved you, if you found yourself holding your breath somewhere in the middle and couldn't quite let it go, then this one was for you. Like this video so more people find it, and drop a comment. Which moment hit hardest? Was it the first wish? The cemetery? Or the moment Maya stepped between Ji-suk and the gun? I read every single comment. Stay right here. The next story is coming for you.